Shohei Ohtani has been officially announced as a Dodger. He spoke to the media for the first time in a long time, and we'll get into everything he said, why he chose the Dodgers, what his dog's name is, and more. And then after that, Andrew Friedman said, let's keep going. And the Dodgers trade with the Rays. Looks like it's going to happen. Not just that, Tyler Glasnow may begin an extension. So that's what's on tap. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day. And an easy way to do that is to subscribe in both of those places. That's the ideal way to do it. If this is your first time listening or watching, and we do have a lot of new watchers, I'm in Samperio. That's my co-host, Jeff Snider, and we are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team in a variety of ways, and one of those ways being this here podcast, where we're here with you every Monday through Friday, bringing you what we believe is smart and rational thoughts around the Dodgers for the most part. And we're here to do that some more today. There's a lot to get into, so let's not waste any more time and get into it. Shohei Ohtani, we finally got to see him in a Dodger uniform that wasn't a Photoshop swap, and he looked good. Obviously, we've talked about in the past how everyone looks good in Dodger blue, and Shohei Ohtani was no exception. He had a few things to say, but before we get into the details, Jeff, any thoughts initially about it?
Yeah, it's the perfect storm of looking good because I think Shohei looks good in everything and everybody looks good in Dodger blue. And so he looks extra good in Dodger blue. And yeah, it was a weird press conference in some ways, like just I don't even know how to describe it. And maybe in person it felt different. I don't know. It's almost like there's this hero worship, which I get, and we're definitely contributing to that. Everybody's excited about Shohei, but it's not like he's just on a different level in so many ways that normally a press conference, there's a different feeling of equalness. Whereas this one, it was like, knowing that every team in baseball would have loved to have Shohei Ohtani and that several teams were prepared to pay him, the ridiculous number that the Dodgers are paying him. It kind of, I feel like he commands a different level of awe or something. Did it feel that way in person?
I don't think so. Well, I guess I'm used to being around Japanese media and Otani specifically from World Baseball Classic and All-Star games in the past. So for me, it kind of felt the same in terms of that. Obviously, the amount of people was a lot different than any other press conference I've been to. And talking to a couple other LA media people, they were talking about, when LeBron came to the Lakers, it was kind of similar to that. And I think I mentioned that kind of last week of what it meant. So I didn't feel that way. I do think there's just a disconnect in general from the language barrier, which, you ask him a question, you have to wait for the translation, and then he answers, and then you wait for the translation back. And, I think that takes away a little bit from it, not in a bad way, just it's different from what we expect. So, the chuckles that were shared when he talked about his dog's name, were shared by some of the Japanese media initially, and then we had to wait to see what his answer really was. But yeah, I mean, obviously the awe is there. Like even me, like I've been around Otani before. I've been within, arm's distance of him, and even today I was just like, oh man, like this is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get into what he said. His opening statement was basically just, thanking the Dodgers for everything, getting to this point, thanking the Angels for everything in the past, called out Friedman and Walter and Stan Casson and others by name in terms of thanking them for,
including Dave Roberts.
Yeah, there you go. Including for making the deal done. And then, took some questions. Now I will say we didn't get the best questions around from some of the media, a little bit of redundancy in certain parts. And, off the bat, Otani did mention they didn't want to talk about anything involving other teams or what went on with their pitches or his thoughts or even how many teams were going after him. But basically, it kind of boiled down to why'd you pick the Dodgers? And he said it wasn't one reason, but it did kind of feel that the reason that kept getting brought up was the winning aspect of it. And it did feel like that was one of the main reasons that he did pick the Dodgers.
Yeah. And one interesting comment that he made was that basically Friedman told him that having only won one World Series title in this 11-year stretch of dominance feels like a failure to the franchise. And that appealed to Otani, that burning desire to win, because they have won a World Series. Like I mentioned before, only, 3 teams have won a World Series more recently than the Dodgers. But that desire to win every year appealed to him. And I think that's a great attitude for the front office to have, and even for the players to have. I don't think it's an attitude we should have as fans, because, like you and I have talked about, there's so much fun in the 6 months of a baseball season and all those great moments. But their job is to win a World Series. And so the fact that they've only been able to do that once, due to a lot of different reasons, some out of their control, some within their control, I'm glad they have that burning desire to win. But I do think that there's a difference between how they should feel and how I should feel.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if your job has certain elements to it and you don't meet those elements, in by definition, that's a failure. So, he's not wrong in that aspect. Their goal every year is to win the World Series. And if you don't meet that goal, that specific goal is failure. But either way, yeah, I mean, like I said, what Otani said was that, the winning, and, he talked about some of the past, in terms of there's Otani spoke to the press. Otani spoke to Kirsten Watson, and Otani spoke to Dave Vassay, and there was different answers from all those. So anything we talk about might not just be from the press conference. It might be a combination of that. But in one of them, that he talked about Nomo specifically and said that that's when he was born. So he didn't really get to experience that, but he knows the legacy. And he said after high school, the Dodgers were one of the teams that kind of wanted him at that time to kind of bring him over. It didn't happen. And he did say that he figured he would always be here if possible. And, now it's possible. And I think it just reinforces the fact that if the DH was around back when he first came over, that he would have been a Dodger since day one.
Yeah, I always keep going back to whichever, I forget which former teammate of his it was in Japan, who said a year or two ago that Shohei has had his future mapped out. He believed that Shohei has known all along where he would go in free agency. And that's one teammate's view of it. But, I know Shohei said he made the decision on Friday night. But I would guess that what he actually did was confirm the decision that he has been leaning towards for a long, long time, because, the same reason that everybody in the media assumed the Dodgers were the favorite is why he's there. It wasn't because the Dodgers were going to outbid everybody. It was because the Dodgers make the most sense for him in so many ways. And so I think he knew that too. And, there was a lot of interesting things said. There was a report that I think Jack Harris said that they did give the Angels, I think it was Nez Bolello, Otani's agent, said that they did give the Angels a chance to match the offer, and Artie Moreno opted not to, which, is neither here nor there, I guess. But in the end, I feel like Otani was always coming to the Dodgers, and that statement about, always feeling like he was going to play here kind of adds to that.
Yeah, there we'll get into that decision specifically and just kind of how he talked about on the timeline of that day right after this. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The weather's getting colder, but the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. A moneyline bet is very simple. You just pick which team is going to win. That's all you have to do. And all you got to do is do that, put in $5. Boom. If your team wins, you get $150 more to bet on even more things. And what else can you bet on? Well, you get the FanDuel app, you can check it out, but it's easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Last night, how'd you bet the over on the Raider game? They did it by themselves in the first half. So, there's different ways to go about it. That was a week after they hit the under very, very, very hard. So, yeah, the NFL, you never know, but that's what's the fun with FanDuel. So go get the app right now. Check it out. Put down your $5 money line bet for one of the games this weekend, and you get $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to kick off your NFL season of betting. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day, and remind you to become an everydayer by listening or watching every single day. And if you want, remember, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Locked On has the first 24/7 streaming channel on sports on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, 24/7, covering the top sports stories around the leagues with local experts of Locked On, plus their national shows that cover every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe right now. All right, Jeff, so let's get back into Ohtani. And like you mentioned, that he said that he made his decision Friday, and then obviously he posted it the next day, Saturday. But that Friday night, and I guess all the conflicting reports were swirling. If you were someone who had one of those conflicting reports, you could say that I wasn't wrong. Otani made a decision late Friday night, and maybe he changed his mind, and that's what it was. Whatever the case was, he said he was aware of the flight tracking and said that it was funny that he was just walking his dog, hanging out at his house that day. He talked about, kind of what went into that decision. Like I said, there's been a couple reports that the Angels, kind of had a last chance effort to match the deal, and they declined to do so. So, Andrew Friedman was in Anaheim actually at the time when he found out that the Dodgers were going to get Otani at his son's soccer game. So there was a lot of moving parts going on. And I think kind of the telling part was after the main press conference when Friedman went with reporters and he was saying, what was the most difficult part of the process? And he said, the not knowing. He said, we knew how we felt. We didn't know how he felt. And obviously that matches a lot of things in life. The unknown is probably the scariest. I don't have much fear or anxiety, but the unknown will always kind of get you every so often. And I know exactly how Andrew Friedman was feeling, because we were all feeling that same way. We had no idea. And we kept telling people, regardless of all these reports and everything else, I don't think anybody knows what Otani had on his mind. And I think it kind of served true.
Yeah, the fact that Friedman had those same feelings, like you always wonder, and I would guess with most free agents, like you can kind of get a feel. Oh, we think he's going to come to us. He's not, and it seems like Otani played everything really close to the vest, including what he said and how he reacted with the teams. Which it's a smart way to do it, especially when you're in as high a demand as Otani was. But yeah, it's. Anybody who ever says they have an Otani source, I think, is lying. I think we can see that Otani and his agent aren't talking to outside sources. They're talking to each other, and that's about it. And it's I can only imagine, as stressful as it was for us. Imagine if you're Andrew Friedman, whose job it is to build this team. As excited as we were on Saturday, I can only imagine how Friedman felt.
Yeah, and on the point of deferrals and everything else, Otani said that he knew about deferrals. He knew that big contracts in the past had deferrals, obviously not to the extent he had, but that, that was the idea he had in order to kind of help the team and make sure the Dodgers wanted to win. And, Friedman said after that he wouldn't have the gall to offer that kind of deal to anybody, but that Otani's camp came to that with him, which has been reported and kind of been said already, but it just kind of confirms everything that Otani wanted this, and he wants, for the reason of winning. He didn't get specifically about the language in the contract in terms of, the Dodgers having to make sure that they use that money that he saves them on to spend around. But, that makes sense, especially when you see the clause of, the confirmation of the clause with Andrew Friedman, or if Mark Walter or Andrew Friedman leave, that Otani could opt out. And he said that was kind of a safety net, that, something he wanted in case things went awry while he's here for 10 years.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting when he was talking about the deferred money, and he just said, I knew it was a thing. So I started reading about it. And I was like, wait, there's no limit, why not just defer a whole bunch of it, and like, he didn't say, I don't need the money, I mean, even if it was just because he made what, $30 million last year from the Angels, like he's fine even there, $30 million in the bank, even with California taxes or whatever, that's still, and living expenses, he's probably still got at least $10 million just from last year. And, if you get $10 million in the bank and getting $2 million a year, I think you can live, and then plus he's got his endorsements. Like, it was just, the mindset. And I think it's so funny. We've probably talked about this already, how much hand wringing there is about how this is just going to break baseball, but this is never going to happen again. Deferrals have been around forever. And it's just the extent to which he's deferring the money. Nobody's ever going to do that again, because there's not going to be another player unless baseball takes a drastic uptick in popularity compared to the other sports. Like Michael Jordan could have done this. Kobe Bryant probably could have done this. There's probably basketball players right now who could do a deal like this if it was allowed. I don't know if it's allowed in the NBA, CBA or not. But the fact is, there is no other baseball player with this popularity, with this endorsement potential, to have his actual salary just be a drop in the bucket and essentially inconsequential. And so every other player who does deferrals, it's going to go back to the regular old deferrals like Mookie Betts and Max Scherzer and Bobby Bonilla and everybody else did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, basketball, I don't think it's allowed. I think the closest thing we've kind of seen is Tom Brady would take lower salary. It wasn't deferrals or anything. He would just take lower salary in order for them to fill out the team around him. There is a salary cap in football, so it makes the luxury tax is a soft salary cap in a sense if teams don't want to get penalized. But in reality, there's teams could spend as much as they want, just like the Mets did last year and how the Dodgers have done in years past. So, but yeah, for him, he knew what he wanted, and clearly because he's I'm sure it wasn't his agent that wanted that necessarily. I'm sure it was Otani that went up and actually read, maybe you guys share something. Jeff, you guys like reading CBA. So the last part is the dog, which was a question, and surprised it took it took like 4 or 5 questions to get to finally the dog question. And the dog's name in English is Decoy, which was, obviously funny because that was a topic of conversation around that the dog's name was involved with one of the teams that he was pursuing. So that's why they didn't release the name. But you had looked it up. He has a Japanese name as well that kind of lends itself to decoy. Well, that he translated to decoy, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing.
Yeah, it's decopine. And I found that. I confirmed. So I was the first person with any kind of following to tweet out the meaning of this. 2 Japanese speakers tweeted out 3 minutes before I did, but they have a total of 5 likes and 1 retweet. So, not a big star like me. But yeah, decopine means the act of flicking someone's forehead with a finger. And I guess it's like a Japanese game where I think it's like rock, paper, scissors, and the loser, you get to flick your buddy in the forehead. And so that's fun. I love the fact, because there was speculation that the reason he's not telling anybody the name of his dog is because it has to do with what team he's going to sign with. One report, I can't remember who it was, actually said, and I could never tell if it was actually a serious thing or if it was a tongue-in-cheek thing, but said the reason he's not telling the dog's name is because it's the name of the team he's going to sign with. So people were like, maybe his name is Dodger, maybe his name is Blue, all those things. And the fact that the dog's name is Decoy, which means the dog really was a decoy all along. It was totally meaningless to free agency, but it got people, thinking like decoy was a decoy. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's pretty much it from Otani. Obviously, he didn't say much. They didn't allow as many questions. There's always press for time. Was there anything else that you think we missed about it?
Did anybody ever ask anybody about Dave Roberts at the winter meetings and any follow up on that?
couldn't. So I was in a scrum when it was Roberts, Friedman, and Gomes, and someone asked Robert. I didn't hear the exact question, but he looked at Andrew and said, "We're all good now. We were always all good." So I'm assuming that's what it was about.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess there was no issue or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. But yeah. All right. There was actual other Dodger news, not official yet, but a trade that was speculated, and now we can talk about it because it looks like it's going to go through, and there's more details about it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Logix. And on this show, we get into a lot of in-depth analysis and hot takes and, stating our opinions. But here's an opinion. Here's the hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA right now is not the Dodgers right now. It's the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off the top with our favorites, the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Then you got the exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. And rounding out the lineup is their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. And I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. So visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you, or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/CAR. If you are not an everydayer, you just have to listen to Locked On Dodgers every single day, or as close to every single day as possible. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Locked On Podcast Network has Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube. One covers all the stuff around sports in Los Angeles, and the other covers everything going on in the sports world in general. Go check them out on YouTube and subscribe. All right, Jeff. So there was reports yesterday or Wednesday night about a trade with the Dodgers and Rays involving Tyler Glasnow, Manuel, Margot, Brian Pepiot, Jonny DeLuca. There was others unconfirmed reports that kind of threw Randy Rosarena. Randy posted the picture of him and Otani on his Instagram to fuel more speculation. Rosenthal kind of confirmed everything in the morning in terms of the names involved, and then it kind of went dead all day after that until later after the press conference on Thursday. It was said to be that was the deal, that the Dodgers will get Glasnow and Margot. They're going to trade Pepiot and DeLuca, but it was contingent upon extension for Tyler Glasnow. And then later on, it was reported that it's expected to go through, that he's going to sign an extension with the Dodgers. So knowing all this now, let's evaluate this trade, Jeff.
Yeah, the extension definitely changes it, because one of the things you're always looking at is team control. And we don't know what the extension will be, at least as of right now. It's 9:41 p.m. on Thursday night Pacific time. We haven't heard anything official. I don't know if we'll get anything official tonight. Probably not. But that one of the big concerns everybody has, Ryan Pepiot has 5 years of team control left. Obviously, the first couple of those years are at roughly the league minimum. And even after that, it's, no matter how you slice it, even if Glasnow signs a 4-year extension with the Dodgers, so it's the same 5 years, Glasnow's 5 years will be more expensive than Pepiot's. But the team control, I think the team control is more important than the money to a team like the Dodgers. And, so really, the fact is Glasnow is a better pitcher right now than Ryan Pepiot when he's healthy. And it's not like Pepiot has been the picture of health either. And it could be as simple as the Dodgers have lingering concerns about the injury that kept Pepiot out most of last year, including a lot longer than anybody expected it to be when he originally got hurt. I don't know if that's the case, but Tyler Glasnow, when he's healthy, is an elite pitcher. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's healthy. He has elite stuff. And, the stuff could even play up more in the Dodgers pitching lab. The Rays are pretty good with pitchers too, but I think when he's healthy, the Dodgers are expecting a Cy Young caliber pitcher in Tyler Glasnow. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. Whether he's going to be healthy, that's still the big concern. And so, Jonny DeLuca from Manuel Margot. Okay. It's probably the fact that the only way the Dodgers were going to get Glasnow is if they took Margot and half of his salary off the Rays' hands. And so, okay, well, we'll swap you this minor leaguer who, Jonny DeLuca probably could have been the right-handed half of that right field platoon with Jason Hayward just as easily as Manuel Margot could have. But I don't necessarily think DeLuca is a superstar in the making. I think he hopefully will be a solid player. But I don't think they're losing a ton there. And Glasnow for Pepiot, it's all going to come down to health, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny to me, obviously initially this deal I wouldn't have loved without the extension, and just, for the simple fact of control. Obviously if it led to, a World Series win, we'd get over it. But with the extension, it swings it all the way back in the Dodgers' favor. You can look at it as Glasnow for Pepiot and DeLuca and still be a good deal for the Dodgers. They're getting the best player in that trade, and they're getting years on it. And, for me, everyone's like, but Glasnow gets hurt all the time and everything else, which is fair that he does that. He does have injury prone to him. The only time Ryan Pepiot was going to be a full-time major league starter, he got hurt before opening day and missed almost the entire season. So how do we know he's not going to be injury prone? To me, that's kind of where I'm at. And that, yeah. And, at the end of the day, do you want, 5 years of Pepiot who has a very high floor, but maybe not as high a ceiling? He's a, probably a floor of a number 3 starter with the ceiling of a number 2. I don't know if he'll really can get up to a number 1 if you need. And Jonny DeLuca, as good as we like him, probably a 4th outfielder realistically, or a platoon outfielder realistically. So you're getting an ace, number 1 style pitcher who does have health concerns, but when he's healthy, he is an ace and he's the number 1 guy. And you're getting the years on him. And who knows, maybe those years end up taking his AAV down a little bit. We'll see, remains to be seen. I don't think he's, $25 million is not bad for an ace pitcher. $25 million for a pitcher that, hasn't thrown over 100 innings is probably not, where it's at. But the Dodgers have the money. I don't think it's a matter of the money. And then Margot's, essentially a throw in, like you said, to kind of balance the books for the Rays a little bit, help them out. And he does hit well against left-handers. Not great. He's had great seasons in which he's hit great against left-handers, and he's had seasons where he's been above average to average against left-handers. And the Dodgers will still have room for one more right-handed bat or one more bat in general when the trade goes through, which could be Kike, which could be somebody else. And, there's still ways to move around. And at the end of the day, Margot is not somebody – if you have a chance to get a big-time outfielder, Margot could be traded again or even, let go. It's not going to, cost anyone anything.
Yeah, it is interesting because Margot doesn't really fit the Dodgers mold. He doesn't walk much. He, a lot of those things, but his numbers are significantly better against left-handed pitching. He makes pretty decent contact, doesn't strike out a ton. And so, he's fast. He plays good defense. There's a lot to be on board with. I think he's a pretty decent platoon option with Jason Hayward. I also think it's worth noting, this doesn't necessarily mean that Randy Arozarena is out of the picture. If the Rays trade Arozarena this offseason, it's still entirely possible that it is to the Dodgers. There's no rule that says you can only make one trade between teams in a given offseason. I think it wouldn't make sense to them. It must not have made sense to them to try to shoehorn him into this trade and say, okay, well, what are the prospects? Okay, well, the parts that we can agree on, let's make this trade. And then, if you want to talk about a Arozarena for a package highlighted by Michael Busch with other prospects, okay, let's do that, So all in all, back to Pepiot, we're very high on Pepiot. I love Ryan Pepiot. I think he's going to be very good. He's been on this podcast. He's a very nice guy. I do think the 2024 Dodgers are a better team with Tyler Glasnow in the rotation than with Ryan Pepiot. And that's kind of the goal right now, is make the team better right now.
Yeah, and all these moves are made right now. But like I said, adding the extension swung it back in the favor of the Dodgers for me because without the extension, it made baseball sense, but it didn't make Dodger baseball sense in the sense of giving up that much team control for guys that have played in the majors and shown that they could be successful in the majors. But yeah, you have the years on the Glasnow, and if it's 3 to 4 years of Glasnow and 5 years of Pepiot, I'm going to take the 3 to 4 years of Glasnow right now because I've seen him do it in the majors for consistently when he's healthy. Not that's always going to be the caveat.
I'm interested to see what the extension looks like. Like I could see a pretty wide range. I would guess we're looking at 15 to 18 million a year with a lot of incentives, which would lower the AAV potentially, depending on and it's if they'd be happy to pay the higher AAV if he hits the incentives, So, but all in all, that's kind of my guess. But I could also see less and more. So it'll be interesting to see when we do find out. But it does sound like it's going to happen.
Yeah. So a lot happened. We've had a lot to talk about with the Dodgers recently, and hopefully continue to move forward. They still need, like I said, another bench bat or platoon bat. They still need more starting pitching. We'll talk. Walker Buehler's been a topic that we've had a couple questions on in DMs and from people. We'll talk about him next week, assuming nothing big happens over the weekend, and maybe we'll start looking into what else they need to get starting pitching wise. Now that they do have Glasnow, he is that ace type. Okay, so now what are you looking for? More of an ace or more of a guy that's going to eat innings that's pretty good? Jordan Montgomery or a Blake Snell type, kind of in that realm. So anything else before we head out for the week, Jeff?
Just last thing, I want to remind you guys about the Locked On Dodgers Insider Club. You can join it, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. We've been having a lot of fun the last couple of days since we launched it, texting out my musings about the Dodgers and stuff to our list. Several of you have already joined. Have some back and forth. You can reply to it. We can have text conversations, one-on-one conversations. We'll do some subscriber only mailbag episodes here on YouTube. A lot of different, and your questions will get priority in regular mailbag episodes. A lot of fun stuff. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to join that.
Yeah, go do that, especially during season when I'm at the games. Like maybe we could send some exclusive stuff there too as well. So
totally.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're new to us this week, we appreciate you. We hope you stick around. We're here every Monday through Friday, about 30 minutes a day here talking Dodgers, whatever's going on in the world. You can find us where you found podcasting on YouTube at Locked On Dodgers. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Remember, Locked On Podcast Network has the Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles 24/7 streaming channels. You can go check those out. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or thoughts, or topics, you can join the subtext if you want the priority. If not, you can still find us on social media. Jeff's on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent's91. Our DMs are open. You can also send them via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, text My Advice Play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you on Monday. Close the episode, Jeff.